Oh, it's so exciting to see everybody popping in. Welcome. I'll just let everyone kind of come in for a moment, but just to make sure you're in the right place, this is We Can Do It, the Design Lab for Connected Teaching and Learning through Crisis and Beyond. My name is Sarah Sullivan, and I am here with my amazing partner, co-designer, co-facilitator, Rachel Kitai.
Hi, everyone.
And we have been waiting for you all to come. We're so excited for this. As we're waiting for more of our colleagues to join, go ahead down into your chat, and there is a link for a collaborative Google Doc. Open that up. Don't download it or anything to your computer. Just use it right in your browser because we'll be contributing that together. That will be our shared collaborative learning space. That'll be one of the ways we interact with each other. And as you're opening that up and settling in, we also have our wonderful colleague, Rebecca Moonstone, who is supporting, and she's available at all times in the chat. So if anything comes up with a technical issue of any sort or anything you need help with, please do reach out to Rebecca in the chat and she will help you out. Everyone at this point is muted as they came in. And there will be opportunity to share at certain points within our session together. And there's going to be sharing together collaboratively on the document, but we will keep people muted for sound. We ask you keep that. As we all know, working in the Zoom world, the Zoom reality. But and when you go into that document, please do sign in. There's some questions regarding purpose. Take a read through the goals, the session goals, and then I'll sort of officially get started right at 10:05 with leading us through it.
The sign-in table is on page 2, everyone. So after you take a quick look at the goals on page 1, if you could scroll into the table on page 2, and you'll see there's a table and you can each take your own row to sign in your name, your campus and role, and then there's a third column for you to reflect on your learning goals for the series.
Welcome anyone who, as you join us, please do open up that Google Doc and sign in. Welcome to our learning community.
And you will want to keep this Google Doc open throughout the session today. And actually, you'll notice this is part of our routine. We'll have a Google Doc for each session, and you'll want to have it open in your browser throughout the session. It's both our agenda and it's a way for us to engage and interact.
Welcome, colleagues. We're so happy you're here. You'll find a Google Doc down in the chat for you to open up and sign in. And we'll just give another minute for people to sign in, settle in. So great to see people's purpose. Okay, wonderful, colleagues. Well, as you're still people finishing up the last bit of the writing there, although of course you can certainly come back to that. But I will launch us right in. We have a very engaging, kind of packed agenda with you all. And I just wanted to say again that Rachel and I and all of 3CSN, we're so grateful and appreciative that you've come, that you are spending your precious time with us, that you find value. This means so much to us. This series, it is part of 3CSN's Wayfinding series, which is all about how we find our way to equity together as a network, as a community. One of the real distinctive features of 3CSN is that we are in it together. We are all practitioners. There's no one that has some expert hat that's going to come in and tell us how to do it. We're going to build that knowledge together. And Rachel and I are right in it with you. And another feature of 3CSN professional learning, it is all about, this whole session will be engaging. And that is by design. We are not here to, again, deliver anything. We're here to build it with you. So we hope that during this series, we're going to be really looking at backward design, at equity-based pedagogy, and we're also experiencing it together. So part of it is that then you are learning learner-centered moves that you can bring into your classroom. And part of when Rachel and I were designing the series, we had this idea of, when you want to design your course and you want to do that with colleagues, Rachel brought up this metaphor of just going to the coffee shop and sitting there together, right? Like when you're working on your fall course. So we could do that together. And that was kind of the, beginning of this series together. So, I will just very briefly, I do want to say, this is, you're preparing your workspace now, you have your collaborative doc out, you'll probably need some pens, regular paper at some point. And I wanted to just highlight too, there is a value in that when we're in an online space with our students to preparing the learning space. It's assumed, right, when we're in the classroom, but taking time to make that transparent when we're here in an online space together. And let me see. And so we will be going over some community agreements together shortly, but I will just, I just want to read the goals again once more. We can do it, learning series, our goals. First, it is to build a community of colleagues to support learning and teaching through a pandemic and a changing world. This is new. We don't know how to do this yet. So we are learning how to do this together in community. We're going to engage in the scholarship of higher education online pedagogy with an emphasis on backward design. And we will be practicing online active learning strategies that support student equity, engagement, and success. And then we're going to actually apply that knowledge like all good learning. So we'll build knowledge together, and then you are applying it to elements of your fall course or a future course or a current course that you have. And we will be reflecting on our overall and evolving practice as educators and as learners. And again, at any moment, need any help, please do reach out into the chat to our colleague, Rebecca Moonstone, who is helping there. And again, just welcome. We're so thrilled that you came here. We can do it.
Okay, everyone. So hopefully hopefully all of you have the Google Doc open by now. If you do not, please go into the chat and get that link from Rebecca. And then I see most of you have been able to sign in on our table there. That is wonderful. If you haven't had a chance yet, please do that. Just find yourself a row and sign in briefly for us. We're going to do a brief activity right now that is going to ask you to think about what we're calling your why, which really just kind of means like your purpose. The reason we're doing that is there's actually a couple of reasons. One is I've actually read some articles about this, that in this time, in the era of COVID, a lot of people in all sectors of work are sort of saying, what is the purpose of the work that I do? Does it matter? Is it essential, right? How can I make it feel purposeful in this changing context? So I think as educators, we can really see that as an opportunity to sort of reconnect with our original purpose. What brought us to education in the first place? What brought us to our discipline? What brought us to the California community college system? And to sort of get back in touch with that like core purpose, while at the same time recalibrating that purpose to meet this changing context and this challenging context, let's be honest, right? And that idea of getting in touch with your why is also the foundation of our content for this first session, which is backward design, which you begin with learning outcomes and your goals or learning goals. So what we're going to ask you to do, you've already had a little bit of time to reflect in that third column about your purpose for being here, your why for being here. Since we have a big group and we can't go through personal introductions like we would like to, what we're going to do is, by way of introduction, is to ask you if you can find a piece of paper, like a real piece of paper, if you can. If you can't, don't worry, we have alternate ways to do this. But if you can find a real piece of paper and a real pen or marker, pencil may not show up, we would like you to think about, in 1 to 3 words, how can you capture your why? Kind of both as an educator in that core purpose way and as your why for being here in this series. So I'll model that. Okay, I found a piece of paper and a marker. I may have had a little head start on that. And here are my 3 words: equity and critical literacy. I'm an English teacher. I came into education because I was troubled by the inequities in our society and in the educational system. I was troubled by the way language was used as a tool of oppression. And I wanted to promote the kinds of literacy skills that I thought all students from all backgrounds need to participate and lead in our democracy. Those core purposes I have found are very well suited to the context today. We need equity more than ever, and we need our students to have the civic literacy skills they need in a democracy today more than ever. To interpret the scientific information that is coming their way, to interpret the political information or disinformation that is coming their way. So these are my 3 words for now. And what I'm going to do is hold them up like this. So I'm going to give you all 1 minute to think about your 3 words. And if you can write them on a piece of paper that you're ready to hold up, that would be great. If you cannot, you could type them into the chat and we will be able to engage with your words in that way. So I'll give you 1 minute now.
Welcome, colleagues. As you come in, please go down to the chat and open up our Google Doc and you'll catch up with us. We're so happy that you are here. Settle in.
Okay. So I see some folks are already ready. Thank you. I see a lot of folks with cameras off, and we completely understand why sometimes our cameras have to be off, but we will invite you, if you're able to turn your camera on, we would invite you to join us visually right now so that we could all, on the count of 3, hold up our words. And we're going to give you a couple minutes to peruse through the gallery view of words. So Sarah, yours is upside down and backwards. Sarah, yours is upside down and backwards. Okay, there we go. All right. So I see service to humanity. I see Christina. I see self-confidence. Hold on, I'm going to unmute you. Can you read self-confidence, voice,
and empowerment? I don't know why. I guess I wrote backwards. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. I think it's just the camera. This is our first time trying this, by the way. I see accessibility, growth, and curiosity, excellence, respect, identity. Okay, we're really seeing a lot of them now. So what we're going to ask you to do is take a few minutes. And again, for those of you with your cameras off or who didn't have a piece of paper or pen on hand, if you could type your words into the chat. And we're going to give you a minute now to peruse. We're going to do a little gallery walk of each other's words. And I'm going to ask you what you notice, what patterns emerge, what comes up for you when you look at our words. Okay, and in the chat, for those of you who haven't made it over, I see collaborate, reevaluate, support, wow, visual creative expression, kindness, excellence, and inspiration, equity, love, community, lifelong learning, equity, anti-bias education, critical thought, self-advocacy, community. So Gilbert's already answering my question. Gilbert, thank you. So what I'm going to ask you all now, and you can hold this up if you'd like, unless it's hurting your hands or arms or something. But what did you notice when you looked at all of our words? Now, if you want to contribute to a large group discussion, because we have such a large group, what we'll ask is that you can contribute to our large group discussions in 2 ways. You can either use the raise hand icon in Zoom, or you can type your thoughts into the chat, which I'm so happy to see Gilbert already has. So Gilbert says he noticed we all want to do good work and support our students. I love that. That really is something that can unite educators. Thank you for that, Gilbert. Who else has something that they've noticed about our words? Thatcher says a lot of student-centered focus on equity. Beautiful. Yeah, I noticed that too. Oh, Heidi, let me unmute you. Go ahead, Heidi. What did you notice?
Yeah, I noticed that most of our words have very little to do with the subject matter that we're teaching in the classroom. Like you don't see calculus, you know, you don't see proper use of verbs, but it's something that goes well beyond the subject matter and gives our students power when they leave our classroom to change their lives and to change the world around them.
Thank you so much, Heidi. That just gave me chills. And I'm seeing Pam in the comments say, oh, Suzanne said, focus on personal passion. Yes, so many educators, almost all educators I know, came into education with passion. And so it's our work over the span of our careers to maintain that, right? To feed and nurture that passion and keep that fire burning. And Pam says, these are all components of a student-ready classroom. Beautiful. Thank you. So much positivity here. And like one thing I notice is so much positivity and hope in a time that can feel challenging and dark, right? So, so thank you all for that. I hope we can continue to find that together here in this series. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah now, because Sarah is going to get us started with a reflective activity. You know, most of today's session is going to be about building knowledge about backward design. And do not worry if you don't know what backward design is. I did not know what it was like a few months ago, okay? So confusion is cool here, okay? That's the whole point of learning it, is we'll be building that knowledge together. But we're gonna be building knowledge about backward design. And throughout this series, I know many of you are here to build knowledge about online pedagogy, and I want to assure you that that is very much what we're here to do, which does not mean that Sarah and I are expert online teachers who are here to tell you how to do it, but it means that we are here absolutely to build knowledge about that, and more of that will be coming in sessions 2, 3, and 4. But before we get into that content, Sarah's going to ground us in some personal reflection.
All right, thank you so much. And that idea of connecting to our why, this is what we'll be looking at that as well with students, and how we need to include their why, that the why of everyone in the room, the collective why, is so crucial to the learning. So thank you so much, colleagues. So what we're going to ask next, we're going to go into next, is a reflective time of writing on some questions that we have created for you. And really, I just want to say a word about this. This really comes from the so many educators, but specifically the work of Paulo Freire, who he described to us the understanding of praxis, which is reflection and action in order to transform the world. It is a cycle. That cycle needs to be both inward focusing, reflective, but then put in service of transformation. So if you go in our Google Doc to page 7, starting on page 7, there's a little graphic there that shows that, just that cycle. Theory, study, building knowledge together, reflecting inside, putting into action, going back to reflection. That is the cycle. So what I ask you to do right now, so you're going to have your own space to do this reflection. It's a reflective journal or a metacognitive journal where you're thinking about your thinking. So what I would ask is either open up your own document, or just take out a piece of paper and pencil, whichever way. Flexible, being online and good teaching is also offering flexible options. So however you want to reflect is perfect, is great, make it work for you. But there are, down below where it says personal teaching and learning history. So I'm going to put on a timer in a minute, and we'll have 8 minutes. So you might want to copy and paste these questions into your own document, or just handwrite, whatever way is going to best serve you. And we will have 8 minutes in shared reflective space, silence, and everyone is writing. And don't feel the pressure you have to like finish all the questions. You can gravitate to the ones that have the most meaning for you, move around, spend that 8 minutes in reflection with these questions in the way that you feel inspired to. And then after 8 minutes, be prepared. We will share with colleagues. We'll go into breakout rooms and have some pair share where you reflect on these with a colleague. Okay, and again, if there's any questions, please reach out in the chat. All right, let's have 8 minutes. Enjoy reflection. Colleagues, thank you for taking that time to look inward. This will be a feature that we incorporate through all 4 of our sessions, and we hope it's something that we all take forward after that, the value of reflecting on our practice.
Sorry to interrupt. Just because of that, whatever document you use to create this reflection, you might think about saving that, holding on to it so that you can have one reflective journal to carry you through the series and potentially after.
Thank you. And now to turn that work, that reflection outward, we're going to use it in two ways. First, we want to look at community agreements, and then you will have time to share with a colleague in a breakout room. So the idea of surfacing community agreements, 3CSN and others see this value, particularly in the context of equity. There are always norms happening with any group of people, and hence power dynamics and things that we need to bring to the surface. And it's that this takes a little time, but there's value in it because that is what is operating. So for us to learn and feel productive and safe together, let's surface what those agreements are. And we do recommend doing this with students as well. So the two questions reflected on there in terms of your own inner dispositions and then the behaviors from the group. So we, Rachel and I, through our work, we've started a little list that has been generated from the community. But we also
Google Doc.
Yes, thank you so much. Scroll back up a bit to page 6. And I'm just going to read these. And then I want you to think if those will support your learning or if there's any you want to add. And if you want to add any, you can just type into the document. And then I'm going to ask that we all make a commitment to upholding these. So the first is to be curious, be an open-minded learner. Second, first seek to understand, listen actively and respectfully. Third, assume good intentions and give grace to ourselves and to others. If you are having tech problems, reach out into the chat for support. We feel in a big group, best is to use hands with Zoom, the icon, to contribute to discussion. And one of us will call on you by name to signal your turn. Or if you prefer, as people are, let's have an active chat. And this is also a classroom practice of allowing there to be that active stream of participation that way. So as we said, microphones will be muted. If possible, like we've said already, please do turn your camera on. But again, same with our students. Let us also, though, allow for flexibility of participation. Participate in writing, speaking, visually, in ways that work for you as a learner. Let us create a brave space or a safe space, or what we have come to learn is a brave space to ask our questions openly and to express our perspectives, our own, from our point of view. As much as we can, allow for silences and pauses, take time to take in. And then finally, be aware of your own airtime, both in terms of how often you raise your hand to speak or what you say when you speak. So if anyone does want to add anything to this. Okay, and do these feel like good guiding agreements for us? Excellent. Okay, thank you. And if anything does come up, we can add, this is a living document. This is a living understanding. Groups of people are dynamic. So we can come back to these if we need to add more to them.
Adrienne had a really great one to add. She said, bring your full self, which sometimes in Zoom, we don't have any choice but to bring our full messy house and our interrupting children and animals. So thank you for that, Adrienne. We'll welcome that and normalize it.
Beautiful. Okay, excellent. So now we will have an opportunity to meet with a partner. What we're going to do in a moment is open up breakout rooms, and you will be with one colleague in a breakout room. You're going to have an opportunity to share, but we're going to ask for structure with that sharing. Again, as a principle of equity, really structuring sharing so that all voices have an opportunity to be heard and listened to. So when you go into your breakout room, you will have 8 minutes total with a partner. So I'm going to ask that you time yourselves 3 minutes for partner 1, then 3 minutes for partner 2 to share, and then 2 minutes to just talk together. It's never enough time, but that's what we'll take right now. And when the first person shares anything from those questions, reflecting on your history as a teacher and learner, how you meet this moment, you take it in any direction you want. And when the second person shares, it doesn't have to be a response to the first person. That's, as Adrienne said, that's your time to bring your full self and show up. Okay.
Okay, I think I have set up the breakout rooms. Does anyone have any questions about what you're doing when you get there? All right, and if you do, feel free to chat to us and we will help you out.
Okay, welcome back. I know it's never long enough. We could definitely share for a longer period, and there'll be a lot more of opportunities to share with each other.
Yep. Yeah, welcome back. We're still seeing folks trickle in here, so I want to wait till everyone's here. But while we're waiting, welcome back. You guys could find your way back to the Google Doc and to page 9, which says Collaborative Knowledge Building About Backward Design, and there's a KWL plus chart there that I'll explain in just a minute. So as Sarah was saying, we know the time in the breakout rooms always feels short. We could use longer. We will be going back in and having a chance to talk with colleagues later in the session. But we hope you had a nice time to reflect and discuss together and connect. So, you know, part of what we're doing in this session is trying to think about what knowledge and capacity do we need as educators right now to help meet this moment, this very unique moment in the history of education, right? That feels so different, right? We've got a global pandemic. We've got the emotional trauma that accompanies that. We've got the economic hardship that accompanies that. We've got, you know, historic racial protests happening all around us, right? The move to online instruction on top of it all, right? Or within it all. So what we're doing in this series is we're trying to build knowledge about what we need to meet that moment in particular, but also just good teaching and learning practice in general. As is so often the case when you go through equity training, for instance, you realize, oh, to be a good equity educator is to be a good educator, right? That being good teaching and learning is equity teaching and learning. And it's the same thing in terms of what can help us meet this moment. And so that's what caused us to center on backward design. So we're going to do some knowledge building or some reading around backward design very shortly. And we're going to use this KWL. And for those who aren't familiar, the K stands for know, so I know. The W stands for want to know. And the L is, oh, here's what I learned. So it's a little hard right now because I see folks are highlighting and it's pink. But what we're going to ask you to do is take just 1 minute before we read together to type into the I know or I want to know columns. Those are the gray ones. So what do you already know about backward design? Anything? I know about a year ago I didn't, so there's no shame in that game. But it is one of those things that once you learn it, it's a threshold concept. You can't unlearn it and you'll never teach the same way again. And you had that moment of like, why didn't they teach me that in grad school? I have a lot of those moments. So go ahead, I see people typing in there. Some folks know that it's about starting with your goals in mind and working backwards. It's focusing on the why. I know that I want to have a goal of what my students should remember to do, remember 10 years from now. That's beautiful. You will see that exact thing come up later in the session today. Some people didn't know anything. That's great. That just means you're in the right place here with us. Sounds like reverse engineering. It is, what you'll see is it is the reverse of what a lot of us do. When we go with our gut as teachers, sometimes we're doing the opposite of backward design. So that's why it's called backward. But I see a lot of you have the big picture gist, actually, in terms of starting with goals, beginning with the end in mind, using objectives, learning objectives. Yep, beautiful. Some questions I'm seeing. How to prioritize and be okay with not getting the students where they are supposed to according to the curriculum. How to apply it to make a course map. Wonderful. That's where we're headed. That's what we're doing in session 4. So whoever wrote that will be patient because we'll get there in session 4. I want to learn how to better design better assessments. I want to improve upon my general understanding. Wonderful. So there's plenty of knowledge in this Zoom room here, and there's plenty of questions and learning still to be done. If you scroll down to the next page, which now is going to be at the top of page 11, what you're going to see are 3 links. Those are each texts. They're different types of texts. And I'm going to ask you to try and open all 3 right now. So you don't need to copy and paste this, but just open all 3 if you can. Do not stress out when you see them and think, oh my God, I have to read all of this and I have to learn every single thing in it and I'm intimidated and I'm dropping out. Please don't do that. Just open the 3 tabs and have them in your browser and then await my instructions. And if you are having trouble opening any of them, please type into the chat so Rebecca can help you. So we're going to open all 3 and then head back to the Google Doc tab. So I now have 4 tabs open on my browser. And what this is this is called a text set. In fact, this is actually a specific kind of text set. It's a vertical text set. And what that means is that all 3 of these texts are about backward design, but there are different ways into backward design. So the first article, which is by Fink, that is really going to be a scholarly article about backward design. It's really a guide more than an article. That is a foundation for this course, so we will be coming back to that quite a bit. So I encourage you, if you've had your coffee this morning and your brain feels fresh, to dive into that one. It is a little bit more challenging, but you guys are definitely up for that challenge. The other one is Backward Design, the Basics. That is from a podcast called The Cult of Pedagogy. And it's a little bit more of like a personalized Cliff Notes version of backward design. It is aimed a bit more at a K-12 audience, K-12 educators audience, but I find that to be very helpful, actually. You will not have time to listen to that whole podcast in this 10 minutes, but there's a transcript that you could peruse. Okay, and then you could go back and listen to it later. And then if you really are feeling a little overwhelmed or tired, or you are more of a visual or auditory learner, we have a video for you from the University of Wisconsin that is 9.5 minutes. So you would have time to watch the whole thing. So you get to sort of choose your own adventure here. That's the idea of a text set. So you get to pick one of these texts to explore. You're going to have about it's going to be 10. I think now it's going to be 8 minutes. So 8 minutes to silently read. And then as you're reading, what we ask is that if there's something that you learn that answers a question or that builds new knowledge for you, if while you read, you could go ahead and add that to the I learned column of the KWL. Put it in your own words, copy and paste the quote, whatever works best for you. And then if questions, connections, applications, anything like that comes up for you, go ahead and add that into the plus column. Okay? We will have a few minutes after we read to add to those columns as well if it's interrupting your reading process to do it while you read. But if it works for you, go ahead and do it while you read as a way of documenting what you're learning and then also what questions, connections, and applications are coming to mind as you read. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and start my timer now for 8 minutes. And if you've got questions about what we're doing or where to be, go ahead and type it into the chat and we'll support you there. Got about 3 minutes left. If you haven't added anything to the L or plus column yet, you might think about trying to do that before the time is up. Okay, thank you everyone. We know that 8 minutes is not enough time to fully read any of those texts or to fully learn about backward design, but we hope it gave you a taste. and maybe whet your appetite so that if you would like to continue reading, listening to, reviewing any of those texts, you've got a week before our next session. And we designed it that way so that you can take deeper dives into any of the things that are introduced here in that time if you have the ability to do that or the desire to do that. But really the best way to learn about backward design is to dive in and start doing it, right? To start practicing it in concrete ways. So what we're gonna do is scroll down. We're gonna keep scrolling on our Google Doc. We're on page 13. And we're going to look at that green box. That green box is green so that you can find it very easily, because this is going to be the homework. Yes, homework due next session. Now, again, we don't want to scare you. This is an absolutely optional supplemental professional learning experience for you that, you know, is not meant to add stress to your life. It's meant to support you in the work you're already doing. So if you cannot get this done by next session, please don't worry about it and please still come. But our invitation to you is that between now and next Friday, you will be building a new or a revised element of a fall course that elicits and or communicates learning goals. Ooh, did someone just delete that? Oh no, it just disappeared from my screen. Okay, there it goes. Learning goals from or to students. And this could be something, look, so some of you might want to actually write out a new learning goal, but we do know that for most of us, our institutions tell us what the learning goals are with our SLOs. And so that can feel like a useful exercise for some and not to others, and we understand that. So this could be something like a welcome message for your Canvas course. It could be something like an introductory survey, an email, a video, or a prompt. And what we mean by that is like a survey that asks students to introduce themselves and their goals to you, or an email where you introduce yourselves to students, or even better, a video where you introduce yourselves to students. It could be a prompt or a purpose and goal setting activity for students. There's lots of ways you could do this, but the idea is that it is helping students articulate and understand that core purpose of the course and understand its connection to you as an educator, to the context that they're in, right? So we actually have two models. One is the Equity 101 welcome video from our colleague Lauren Service. For those of you who haven't had a chance, the Equity 101 course is excellent and it's being offered again in August, and we'll tell you about that down the road. But she offers this video as a way of introducing herself to the participants. And you'll see when you watch it, if you have a chance to watch it. Unfortunately, we're short on time and we won't have time to watch it now with you. We wanted to, but we'll ask you to do that for your homework. But what she does in that video is really talk about what are the core goals of the course, not just what are the bulleted SLOs that I'm forced to tell you, but what, in my own words, as a human to another human, is the deeper why of this course? And what is my why as an educator, right? And connecting to their why. You can see when you watch that video how human she is, okay? And how connected to her purpose and her context she is. And you can see that her students or her learners get to see that as well. And then the second example comes from my co-facilitator, Sarah, who's been designing courses in this context. And for her 1A class this summer, she has them do an introductory survey. And you'll see in there how she's adapted those questions so that she can really understand right off the bat, what are her students' learning goals? And how does this context, online learning and all of it, like they have a chance to sort of give voice to how that context and that purpose connect for them. So those are two models for you to look at. And then there will be some supplemental homework, which we'll talk about later. But what we are gonna do now is give you some time. If you scroll down to page 15, we're calling it Design Lab time. And we're committed to having this time in every session. And what that means is that you will have time to sort of begin the design process for that homework, for that element, right? So at this point, what that means is doing a little bit of reflecting and then having some time with a thought partner to collaborate on these questions, to think through what you already do and what you might do to begin this process. So you'll see those questions there. And we're gonna give you 2 minutes to think about. Now, you could write this if you want to in your reflective journal. I see some folks are copying and pasting them. Or you could just do some thinking on these right now. In fact, if you need a standing break, you could read these questions and then walk around your room and think about them. But the questions are basically about the first two steps of the backward design process. The first is the situational factors. It says, think suggests that the first step of our design process should be to, quote, size up the teaching and learning situation of the course. So our questions for you are, how has the context or situation for teaching and learning changed for you and your students this year? And how has it stayed the same? And what do you already do or plan to do in your courses to adapt to this new teaching and learning situation? And what else might you do? In other words, how are you acknowledging the context? Are you bringing up the pandemic to your students? Are you bringing up Black Lives Matter to your students? Are you ignoring the elephant in the room because you're not sure how to do it, right? How are you adapting to the situation is something that is really asking you to think through. How are you already doing it, and how would you like to do it in the fall? And then the second one is about learning outcomes, okay? And there it says, Fink recommends that we move away from a content-centered approach and toward a learning-centered approach by considering the following questions. What would I like the impact of this course to be on students 2 to 3 years after the course is over? What would distinguish students who have taken this course from students who have not? So how has your understanding of the learning goals of this course changed this year, and how has it stayed the same? In other words, do those SLOs still feel purposeful to you? Did your purpose for this course a year ago, is it still feel like your purpose for this course now? Does it still work for you? Does it still work for your students? And then what do you already do or plan to do in your courses that invites students to articulate their learning goals or communicates to students significant learning goals? So for me, a couple of years ago, I'd probably be like, oh, all I do is I tell them to look at the SLOs on the syllabus, right? So I would be asking myself at that point, what can I do better? What can I do that's more significant, more human, more connected than just pointing to the SLOs on the syllabus? Okay. Take about 2 to 3 minutes right now to think silently or write silently, whatever works for you, on those questions. Okay. So hopefully you at least got a little bit started in your thinking there, but not to worry. I'm about to invite you to a breakout room, and there's no pressure in that breakout room. In other words, we don't expect you to already have anything figured out. We're inviting you there to think these questions through with a thought partner. So you'll have a thought partner, you'll use these questions to guide your discussion. Try and make sure that each of you has time to talk through your thinking on them as best you can. If you have extra time, or if you're feeling a little bit stuck or confused, you're welcome to use your thought partner time to watch Lauren's video or take a look at Sarah's model from the homework, or to talk through any ideas you're already having about what you might do for your homework. Okay, so you're invited into the breakout room now. We will send some instructions about timing in a second. I believe we'll have about 8 minutes, so take about 3 minutes per person to share, and then 2 minutes for crosstalk. I'll send those out via a broadcast message.
Pulled back. Okay, everyone, take a deep breath and appreciate the work that you've put in already to this series, to this session. We appreciate it so much. So we're right here at the end, but I do want to just say the homework again, and I do want to give you a little bit of dedicated time to give us some feedback, and not only just maybe what you appreciated, but what else you need. That's really important for us to hear that from you. But we recognize this is a lot, right? And so like Rachel said, there's some of that confusion that still will come, and that will be clarified. And part of that learning is being in that liminal space of like stretching. And so we know some of this is a stretch, and we appreciate you so much. So with the homework that is in that green box there, so some of you may want, first of all, thank you for even being willing to do homework in this kind of a environment. Also, none of it is there to be a pressure. So if you don't get any homework piece done, still come back right? Same with our students. We don't want them, you don't not show up, because whatever state you're in, come back. That's just right. But also do whatever level works for you. If you want to dig back into those readings, watching the videos, go for it. This collaborative doc will always be available to you. We will also be following up. We'll send you an email. Later, there'll be an invitation to a Canvas we'll share, but don't let that be scary or overload yet. Don't worry about logging in, any of it. But there will be a place where we'll house everything, so you'll have access to that. So as Rachel described, so the homework is to take what we're doing and then apply it. Bring it into something in a future course, and look through those examples. And again, this can be as big or as micro as works for you, but something where you're involving the learners and their goals as you're setting out, thinking about that in your design. So when you come back next Friday, we'll just be ready to either describe the homework, what you did for design, or your process about it. We will have a way to share it eventually, but kind of be ready for that. Or it's okay, again, if whatever you do, it is okay. Give yourself that permission and that credit. Okay, so please do go to page
16.
Thank you. And I'm going to stop talking, and let's all add some feedback, both what you got and what you still need or what questions remain. So please add to that.
And if you've got a question specifically about the homework, like not knowing how to proceed, please go ahead and put that in the I need column, and we can respond to you with a comment there. We have reached 11:30, and we want to make sure that we respect your time. So if anyone has to log off, we totally understand. But this Google Doc is still open and available for you. So for those who want to keep typing your thoughts, please do so. And there's also underneath the table a number of resources for you. And also you can see an overview of the sessions that are to come and what we'll be doing each of the next 3 Fridays. So we encourage you to take a look at those. I just want to point out one wonderful comment in the I got column. Someone said, I got an appreciation for the students' experience in online learning. It's different from this side. And that is a beautiful thing to take from this series, which is to experience it as a student. And we hope that you pay attention to the design of the session and the facilitation, and what moves might be things that you might use as a teacher, or what things don't feel right, or what you might adapt. You can take and steal anything you see here, which is basically the model of 3CSN professional learning. Is you experience the learning and can decide what you might take back into your own roles as learning facilitators. So that's a good lens to have on while you engage with the series. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement, your passion, your willingness to learn new things in a time of crisis. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday. And if any questions come up in the meantime, please email me or Sarah. Our emails are there on the Google Doc, and we will follow up with you via email as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.